Let's get on with the details of those stories now. The Ghana Integrity Initiative is advocating for comprehensive anti-corruption education policy to be introduced in our basic schools. Speaking to JoyNews at the launch of a new anti-corruption training manual in Accra, the executive director for the GII, Linda Ofoikwafo, advocated that children are educated in corruption right from the start if corruption is to be uprooted from the society. She also expressed the readiness of GII to collaborate with government on this suggestion.
We know the challenges and the problems that goes with, especially for the youth, the young ones, in dealing with the matter of sex. In much the same way, as a country, we should be very much concerned about having a comprehensive education on corruption, so then anti-corruption training, which is comprehensive enough. And I must say, this document developed by the Ghana Integrity Initiative is comprehensive enough. It actually teaches you what corruption is, how it manifests itself, where it can be found, what you do with it when you become a victim or witness of same, and then it can be used anywhere. It's now targeting religious bodies, Islamic side as well as Christianity side. In much the same way, we should be able, and GI is willing and ready to be able to design one that is a bit simpler for us to use in our schools, so we can actually see that we are now undertaking or embarking on comprehensive anti-corruption training or education in the country, so that we actually grow. We have people growing up who already appreciate the ills of corruption, and then even if they become leaders in future, obviously they already know, and without sanctioning or whatever, they might be able to stay away from corruption. Then by that, we'll be able to create a next generation of anti-corruption crusaders. So we also talk about sex, we should be talking about anti-corruption as well.
That's Linda Ofoikwafo there, spokesperson to the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Arimiya Shaibu, at the launch bemoaned the declining rate of integrity in the country, even though Ghana is dominated by religious people. He's urging the religious bodies to stand up in the fight against corruption.
Corruption is a drain on our national economy. Corruption is an abuse of human rights. To be corrupt is to say you don't care about the next person close to you. To be corrupt means you are not committed to our collective development. All these things go into it, and I think that it is very worrying and disturbing. The country that is made up of more than 90% of people committed to religion. We have a weak spirit in fighting corruption. Christians are in this country, Muslims are in this country. And indeed, our country is a country, though secular, but deep in the sense of God. And our state values and institutions will bear testimony to this. So when we sing our national anthem, we begin with God. God bless our homeland, Ghana. Where do we place God in our national affairs when we are corrupt? When we recite the national pledge, we end up with saying, "So help me God." And we even begin by saying, "I promise on my honor." That's a declaration we make. When we are being sworn into office, whether by the Quran or by the cross or the Bible, we make a symbolic expression by raising our hands this way. And at the end of it, we say, "So help me God." So we find that God is just at the center of our national affairs. And collectively, we have a sense of God. But the contradiction is that the values that comes with a sense of God is that which we have thrown away. And so increasingly, we are becoming a corrupt nation.
Sheikh Arimiya Shaibu speaks for the National Chief Imam. While joining us via Skype is the Programs Manager at the Ghana Integrity Initiative, Mary Awelana Ada. We'll talk about this a bit further. But Mary, thank you very much for your time this afternoon here on The Pulse.
Thank you. you very much for having me, Gifty.
It sounds like a good call for everybody who believes in anti-corruption. But then, wouldn't you say it's a bit late in the day?
It's never late in a day to fight corruption. We have come to appreciate that there is a need to have a concerted effort. And to do that, we need everybody on board. And if we need everybody on board to fight corruption, it means we need to have an evidence-based documented proof of the tools and also the various frameworks available to fighting corruption. So in essence, it is very important anytime, any day to put together a document that should guide the people of Ghana to fight corruption effectively, particularly when it comes to the faith-based and religious community and also other civil society organizations who are coming on board the fight against corruption but do not have the needed capacity and are not empowered enough to be able to do so. And so for us in the Ghana Integrity Initiative, we believe that it's never too late. We believe this is the time we should put together this manual, which would help you, the media, help civil society, but then help the religious community who have the greatest platforms in Ghana, because we bring together either in our churches Christians on a daily basis, on at least a day on Sunday, where everybody converges to listen to the word of God. And since the word of God also eschews acts of corruption, it would be very good to start from this point, and we believe it is a good intervention.
How then it's supposed to work to give us that results that we're looking at. Now, if you look at the proposal or the suggestion, it says to include this in the curriculum for our students and also to get it across to the churches. How exactly does the GII envisage that a plan like that will work? First of all, what will be in the manual and how is it expected to operate?
Thank you very much, Gifty. So if you pick the manual, you would realize that it captures everything in Ghana that has to do with anti-corruption. And it starts from our fight so far, so the strategies we have used in fighting corruption so far as a country, from independence to date, and it even predates some of the interventions that were put in place before that, to arm us to know that some interventions were taken in the past, and also comes to document some of the legislations from 1960 when corruption was made a criminal offense under our Criminal Offences Act 1960 at 29. We also document other conventions and frameworks such as the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. We have the African Union Convention Against Corruption. But essentially and critically, we also put together what we refer to as the citizens' role in the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan, what all citizens are supposed to be doing when it comes to the fight against corruption. And the manual also puts together, you realize that in one of the sections, what we should do when it comes to corruption reporting, because we continue to talk about the issues, but this is the time for us as a people to encourage our citizens by increasing awareness and knowledge, and that comes to you, the media, and us in civil society, to continue to talk about the issues, to sustain them, and build capacity of the citizenry, particularly our religious leaders, to be able to see corruption as it is, and then also report it when they see it, with the knowledge and assurance that there are legislations and there are frameworks that protect us when we blow the whistle. And so one of the critical elements in this act, in the manual, is the Whistleblower Act, as well as the witness protection. So it's not just for people to blow the whistle, but also gives assurance to people who want to present themselves as witnesses to the state who have seen things, happenings or infractions of corruption, coming forward to state categorically that this is what I have seen and I want to be a witness for the state. And you would also realize that there are models within this manual that shows us how we should be able to do this. And as the training is ongoing, you realize that we have trainings and activities, various animations that bring to bear exactly what the cost of corruption is in our daily lives. And for that matter, the appreciation is more when you encounter it physically like that. People sometimes do not know that corruption affects them and so might not be too interested in the fight. But when they realize that corruption could affect the enjoyment of their rights as citizens, because if there is corruption in the system, their access to the quality of services that they are enjoying to enjoy as a constitutional right, then they begin to realize that corruption goes beyond and exceeds just taking of bribes, which enrich a section of our community, but then it also affects them in the shoddy roads that they see on their in their communities, on the lack of medication in their hospitals, and the poor nature of services that the people of Ghana continue to enjoy.
I mean, with this part, I'm looking at a booklet here, which is Ghana Integrity Initiative. It says Anti-Corruption Training Manual. I believe this is the document we're talking about.
Exactly, that is
okay.
the document.
So let me I just went a bit.
It has some annexes as well,
right,
which are not provided in this document. Presentations that can be assessed and then you use for whatever trainings you would want to engage.
So just a quick one. I see here Module 2, Corruption and Human Rights. And then you have Understanding Human Rights. It goes on to say that it talks about equality and non-discrimination. And then it says that all human is the basis of human rights. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. And it says non-discrimination is integral to the concept of equality because it ensures that no one is denied the protection of their human rights based on external factors. It goes on to talk about the reference of these human rights, which include race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, birth, property, birth or other status. I'm trying to understand how that bit of the module fits into anti-corruption.
Great. So there is a relationship, just like I said before now, to corruption. So human rights per se might not be corruption, but then as you have read, most of the issues or most of the human rights that we are supposed to be enjoying as citizens of this country could be trampled upon if the system is not free and it's not equal for all. And so if there is corruption in the system, then it manifests itself in the denial of rights to a certain category of the people. Remember, we continue to say that corruption disproportionately affects the poor more than it does those who are well endowed. And so on this premise, you would realize that the poor person in the village who has equal rights as you, Gifty, sitting in the JoyNews TV hosting, would not have the same rights when they go to hospital. When the poor person is confronted with a bribe, they might not know what to do. And that is an infraction on their right as a citizen to those services. They go to schools to look for admission for their children. They are confronted with certain situations they are not able to deal with. They go to the hospital to send their children. They are required to pay certain amounts. And for you, because you are empowered and endowed, some of these behaviors would not be
Okay.
countenanced by you,
Okay.
and people would not even ask you to engage in them. And so that is it. Human rights are very critical, and
Understood.
when behaviors of corruption are manifested, they ensure that people are disproportionately affected and their rights are infringed upon.
Understood. Very well. Before I let you go, you also talk about a replica policy. You're pushing for a replica policy of CSA in the fight against corruption. Help us understand that bit as well. What exactly did you mean when you say that?
Okay, so what we intend to do is that in the curricula as it stands, we do not have extensive anti-corruption in there. So our advocacy going forward is that we have a manual and we have content as well. GRI being in existence for the past 20 years would want to inform this curriculum, would want to inform the discourse into what comes out as curriculum for our children from basic schools to the tertiary level. And so we are ready for now with our documents to advocate with the institutions that be the Ghana Education Service, the ministry, to have something. We are ready to produce it, and if they are willing, then we can take it up from there and they can include it into the curricula as it is, because we believe that the future of this country in the fight against corruption lies in the bosom of the youth. It is critical to bring back the values that we have lost. And so putting in place a documented framework, a documented guide to help teachers to teach anti-corruption, to help teachers to teach integrity, to help teachers to bring up the subject matter of what exactly it is when we talk about accountability and answerability is, in fact, more than timely as
All
we
right.
speak.
And before I let you go again, finally, we've dealt with the subject of anti-corruption. We've seen the challenges that we're faced with. We've seen how deeply rooted this problem is. Upon hindsight, I mean, what are the suggestions of the GII as to how we deal with anti-corruption going forward? In fact, a lot of people had hope in the office of the special prosecutor. As it stands now, we've seen how his work is going, and a lot of people are not necessarily impressed. What then do we do going forward in dealing with corruption, finally?
Thank you, Gifty. It is very simple. You see, one of the things we have done in this country that has gained a lot of momentum and results was when you would all join forces to engage in this galamsey fight. And so it is for all of us as citizens to begin to appreciate that to fight corruption, we all need to play our roles. The NACAP states it as such. And so we need a concerted, forward-looking plan that brings on board each and every one of our stakeholders who have the voice, who are visible, to continue to advocate. Because for civil society, we have our mandate. For media, you have your mandate. For the investigative agencies, their mandate is also spelled out per the Constitution.
Certainly.
We cannot do more than we are doing. But then when we all play our various roles, we would be able to win the war against corruption. And we as well are talking about focusing on groups such as the youth, groups such as women's groups, groups such as the church, and bringing the message of the effect, the killing nature of the canker, the stealing nature of the canker to everybody.
Well. Mary, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Everyone. Thank you so
Mary
much.
Awilana Ada there. She is the programs manager for Ghana Integrity Initiative, joining us there. Now they have put together the manual, which they're calling the Anti-Corruption Training Manual, and they're hoping that it will go through to faith-based organizations as well as civil society institutions. In fact, they're targeting educational facilities. So hopefully we'll get some work done there.